Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome into Mean Streets, powered by FTN. I'm your host, Chris Meaney. Thanks, as always, for taking the time to hang out. I am super thrilled, as I mentioned on Friday's show, to bring in our next guest, doing so much work for us over at FTN, killing it content-wise. A lot of football content over at FTNFantasy.com. And, of course, he is the co-host of the Fade the Chalk podcast. And we were joking before that he is the better half from Derrick Brown, who is away. But we've had Derrick on the show, so I'm so thrilled to bring in Adam Pfeifer. Give him a follow on Twitter at @Pfeifer24. What's going on, man?
Meaney, what's up, man? Yeah, it's appreciate the words, and yeah, it's wild, man. We got NBA playoffs heating up. We got football trades and craziness, and what are we? I think we're like 90, 95 or 96 days away from the season starting. So, yeah, man, I'm happy to be here.
Oh, baby, the countdown is on. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to fly. You know this, right?
Yeah.
We're basically into mid-June here, and, drafts are going to start ramping up. So, yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on. Like I said, man, the pod is awesome. You guys are killing it, and the Discord is absolutely lit. You guys are asking getting all kinds of questions. So you and I are going to have a little bit of a rookie conversation, rookie running backs. Derrick was on. We did wide receivers just a few days ago. So I know the running backs it's not like last year. We're sitting here talking about a lot of stud sophomore backs, right? Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Andre Swift. Like there were so many great running backs last year that it's a little thin, but we'll have a conversation anyways. And I know you've been talking a lot about Dynasty. We were just chatting about Dynasty drafts before we went live here. So I'll get your thoughts on maybe a couple Dynasty targets, but you're right. Trades. I always say it's a great time to be a sports fan. Everything seems to be happening. And I just love trades. We don't get to see them too often in the NFL, and not like marquee players like Julio Jones, but Julio Jones now a member of the Tennesse Titans. I saw reports surface today that he had no clue that he was on TV when he made the comments to let his trade request become public. I'm not sure if I totally buy that, but nonetheless, he is out of Atlanta. And he's just been such a stud, man, over the course of his career. I know touchdowns have been an issue for him, but a lot of people poke fun at the touchdowns and how he can't score. But 7 1,000-yard seasons, Pfeifer, 1,600 plus. Had nearly 1,900 in 2015. What were your initial thoughts when you heard the trade go down?
As a Bills fan, I was pissed he went to the AFC, first off. But yeah, like Julio, I've talked about it on the pod and on Twitter, Julio I am like a huge Julio truther. Like, I think he's a top 5 receiver ever. And a lot of people don't, but at 32, like, he's still one of the best. Like, in fantasy, we're going to talk about, like, where he ranks and stuff. And he's not going to be a top 5 ranked fantasy receiver anymore. But in terms of what he does in the field and his impact and his skill set and everything, like, he's still up there at 32 years old. So Tennessee obviously had a need at receiver. And we were all kind of, at least I was, during the NFL draft, where I was sitting there like, why are they not addressing pass catchers at all? Like, they just didn't.
I know.
So I don't know if this was like a plan or whatever, but it worked out for them because, with Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis gone, it's about 34% of their targets from last year that need replacing. Like, I think it's going to be immediately the best, duo. They're better than Tampa Bay's receivers. They're better than Minnesota's receivers. Like, they're the best. Just Julio is still an elite receiver, and AJ Brown is obviously trending towards that direction if he's not there already. So, yeah, for fantasy though, I wrote the blurb for the breaking news, tab on FTN Fantasy, and basically, like, all offseason we're talking about how AJ Brown is going to be like he has a chance to be the wide receiver 1 because he has been, in his first 2 seasons in the NFL, the wide receiver 12 and the wide receiver 20 in fantasy, and he's done that despite ranking 30th and 46th in targets. So, like, a lot of that's he's missed some time, and a lot of that's obviously the offense he's in with Tennessee. But prior to the Julio trade, we were projecting him for like 140 plus targets, and he still could get there. Again, there's an extra game, and maybe Tennessee opens their offense up with Julio and AJ Brown there. But he's not, to me, like, I did move him down, but like, I'm not. He's still a wide receiver. He's my wide receiver 8, so I moved him from 5 to 8. But like, I don't think he has a chance to be the wide receiver 1 anymore. But if you're moving him outside your top 12, I think you're getting a little too cute, and I think he's still ahead of Julio, just because he still fits this offense better. I know Arthur Smith's not there anymore, and that was a huge part of their offense's play action and getting players involved after the catch. But like with Steve Downing, they're still going to do that. They hired him, they kept him in house. He's spent time with obviously Arthur Smith and his coaching staff. I don't think with Derrick Henry still there, they're going to change their offensive philosophy too much. I think that does benefit AJ Brown more. Like Julio said, he wanted to play with a strong armed quarterback, and like Tannehill's been incredible, but he's not like
Right.
he doesn't have a cannon. So I don't know if he's going to fit as well as AJ Brown would. But yeah, just for their offense, I mean, the trio of Henry, AJ Brown, and Julio is as good as honestly we've ever seen.
Yeah,
So
I don't think it gets much better, right?
I mean,
It,
it's
it,
rivaling what like Falk, Bruce, Holt,
yeah,
but the problem is like Julio is way better than both those receivers, and who knows what AJ Brown could be. Marshall Falk's obviously like one of the
yeah,
premier running backs ever, and he's different than Derrick Henry, but like
sure.
that's going to be a absolute nightmare for defensive coordinators the week ahead of that game, like every week.
Yeah, and Tannehill is. I mean, he's accurate, right? Last season was a pretty solid season for him. I mean, they can run the play action so well. You're right; he doesn't have a deep ball, but I think he's certainly a serviceable quarterback. He's definitely capable. As for Henry, coming off the 2,000-yard season, he's just seen an increase. I mean, 215, that was his carries 3 years ago, it eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark, and then 303 for 1,540, and then last season 378 for 2,027 yards. Unbelievable stuff. I was looking at all this too. Obviously, AJ Brown, wide receiver 6 last year in a half-point setting, and 106 targets, ranked 30th. I think you mentioned that. But, I want to go back to Julio just for a second. And I think the biggest thing for me, I mean, wide receiver 53 last year, whatever, it was 9 games, 13.4 fantasy points per game in a half-point setting is wide receiver 13, behind Mike Evans, ahead of Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin. A lot of people again talk about the games played and the touchdowns. I think it's a bit of a myth. I know he's battled through some injuries, and sometimes you see him on the sidelines. 14 games played in 6 straight seasons prior to last year, 18 touchdowns in his first 2 years, but 6 or fewer in 6 of his next 8 seasons. So the touchdowns totally haven't been there, but the finishes, Adam, have been wide receiver 3 in 2019, wide receiver 5, 2018, wide receiver 4, 2017, wide receiver 6,
Yeah.
2016.
And it's the yardage. I mean, he still
Exactly.
leads NFL history in receiving yards per game. Like he is, and I think the Julio touchdown stuff is a Matt Ryan thing more than a Julio thing,
Absolutely agree.
personally. But
Yeah.
again, I'm also like a huge Julio fan. So like, but but like Matt Ryan just he is very, very and remember it was a lot of it was Steve Sarkisian when he was in Atlanta. His
Mhm.
red zone play calling was so bad. So yeah, like you're not gonna convince me even at 32 years old that Julio is anywhere close to washed. He's far from it.
Yeah.
Like now
Seven.
they have what the two of the three leaders in yards per out run from the
Yeah.
last couple of years.
Yes.
Like that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
That is terrifying. And it's going to open up so much for this offense, right? To have those two studs. I was with you, and when we were doing the draft show here, I was thinking the whole time, what is Tennessee going to do? Wow, they're not leaving with any wide receivers, and people are starting to get excited about Josh Reynolds. It's like, seriously, guys? But to bring in a guy like Julio Jones, 7.5 targets per game last season, Pfeifer, 9.8 targets per game in 2019. Matt Ryan last year, 626 passing attempts. That was number one. He's been top 3 in passing attempts in each of the last 3 seasons. For Tannehill, 481 attempts last year, 18th. What do you think for Julio? Do we just, is this too lazy to just say, okay, Corey Davis had 65 catches on 90 targets, almost 1,000 yards. 90 targets would seem pretty low for Julio, but you mentioned a couple guys outside of that offense. Like, what do you think? Like, what's the expectations if you're trying to figure out targets? Like, how many targets per game do you think? 7.5? Like, does he see that number increase?
I don't know about increase, but like if he averages 7.5 targets per game again, like I think that would be perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And I could totally see that.
And efficient
For
with those targets.
yeah, like he's gonna be good. Like I think both Brown and Julio see 120. I just think Brown has a chance to see 140, just because I think he still has the rapport with Tannehill. Not that you really need to develop much of rapport with Julio. He's just that good.
Mm-hmm.
I just, like I said, I think Tannehill fits the offense better, or AJ Brown fits the offense better. Um, but again, like Julio is going to have 1,000 yards if he stays relatively healthy, and he's not. He's not a, yes, he gets this rap that he's injured a lot, but like he doesn't miss games really. Like Julio, you see him limp to the sideline a lot. That happens to every player because they play in
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
NFL. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um, I do think like Julio is going to be drafted like closer to like wide receiver 20 than he's ever been, obviously. which is really interesting. I remember like before the trade rumors were even up, he was going like in the 4th round in best ball drafts just because he was coming off an injured season and he's older. It's like now I wonder where he's going to go, because I
Yeah,
think most people would view this as a downgrade for him just because the offense
sure.
is going to throw the ball significantly less.
I think I think it's a slight downgrade, but at the same time, I think Tannehill can be more efficient. I think having an alpha on the other side like AJ Brown will do wonders. Not no disrespect to Calvin Ridley, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but yeah, as of right now, I would take a look at drafts NFCC since May 1st. So basically, 5.5, 6 weeks here. Wide receiver 16 on average, ADP 44. I mentioned that AJ Brown was wide receiver 6. I lied. He was wide receiver 12.5 point setting. He's going as wide receiver
Yeah.
6 in
Wide receiver 12 and
NFFC.
wide receiver 20, despite not even being top 30 or
Yeah.
32 in targets. Like
Yeah.
that's why I was so like, and everybody else was too, obviously. Like if he was going to be the unquestioned top target, which he'd still be the top target, but now it's more of a question. Like he was going to smash, and he's still going to smash because he's been one of the most efficient receivers in the NFL since he's entered the league. So, and like their defense is not like their secondary is really bad. So like if
Yes,
their
that's another thing
defense,
too.
they're not going to be Atlanta level bad, I don't think.
No.
But if they're suddenly like a bottom 10 defense and Derrick Henry doesn't have as many of these 28 carry games, I mean, Tannehill should be top 10 regardless because he's been that efficient and now he gets, you know, the god that is Julio Jones. But like I don't like their defense a lot. So like they could be in more pass heavy game scripts than we think. And they have a couple games where they're gonna have to pass. Like there's a stretch where they play like Buffalo, they might play Kansas City. So there will be more shootouts, I think, in Tennessee than people realize.
And that's the kicker, right? Is that the secondary is not fantastic, and they're going to give up some points. They gave up some points last year, so Tannehill, he's still going to probably flirt with 500 passing attempts, and who knows, maybe even more. Maybe they decide to throw a little bit more. Maybe the carries come off of Derrick
Yeah.
Henry's just a little bit. And they're looking at the big picture. They don't need to be giving this guy 30 plus touches, every other week. So, yeah, AJ Brown, I had to move him a little bit. I had to bump him down just like you. I wasn't in that wide receiver 1 territory. I was still in the camp that I'd rather have Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill,
Yeah.
Devontae Adams, but Brown, I think, was a borderline top 5. So I've had to move Ridley up too. I'd love to get your thoughts on Ridley, if you would take him over any of those studs or DeAndre Hopkins, or if we just need to cool it a little bit. But I think the biggest thing for Calvin Ridley last year was that he just was able to answer the bell in terms of top coverage, because you could always hear it. Certainly, you're a dynasty guy. I'm a dynasty guy. People are hopefully tuning in here to get some dynasty, some talk and listening to your podcast. Was that I was looking ahead. I had a dynasty startup last year, took Calvin Ridley pretty early as my number 1, thinking that this could happen with Julio getting a little older. Maybe he would part ways with the team. And I think when Julio was away from the team, we're looking at Calvin Ridley as just answering all those questions that I think anybody had for him. Oh, can he face top coverage? Yeah, I mean, he faced it fine. He hit the century mark in 4 of his final 5 games, at least 9 targets in his final 7 games. He's got 26 TDs in 3 seasons, 800 yards as a rookie, topped that in his second year. And then last season, 1,374 yards, 143 targets, and 90 grabs, man. He's a locked in top 5 for me. I may even have to have him like 4 ahead of Hopkins. Where are you at with him?
Yeah, I literally pretty much just, almost switched. Like I had
Him and AJ? Yeah.
I had AJ Brown 5 and Ridley 6 before the trade. Now I have, Ridley 5, AJ Brown 8. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's been like really like borderline wide receiver 1 with Julio, but like the games he played without him, I mean, 5 for 110. That was against Chicago. And then week 5, he went 8 for 136. Like he pretty much went for 100 yards almost every game without Julio last year. He is, I just, and Matt Ryan is like the king of yardage. So this team is going to have a ton of passing yardage, and Ridley's going to be a lock for like 1,300 yards if he's healthy. Like I don't see a way at age 26 with the skill set he has in this offense. I really don't see a way he fails. Like even at his ADP, it's going to go. I mean, AJ Brown was a borderline first round pick for a lot of this early parts of the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, if Ridley kind of just takes that spot in ADP, like I wouldn't fault you. Like I still have him behind Hopkins, Diggs, Tyreek, and Devontae. But like if you take him 4th among those guys, like I don't think you're crazy at all. Even if you take him 3rd, I don't think you're necessarily crazy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. 143 targets in 15 games. So that was Diggs, your boy, obviously led the way, 166. Hopkins, 160. I think we can count on that again. Allen Robinson, 151. Devontae Adams, 148. Keenan Allen, 147. These are guys that I expect to be ball hawks and ball hogs to get a lot of targets. And then Deontay Johnson, I'm unsure of, but 144 targets. Like, I'm definitely, obviously, a lot of people know we're taking Ridley over him, but he's in line here to finish top 4, top 5 in targets and more growth. As you said, you mentioned the age there. Another guy who is just gaining steam and will gain steam now is Kyle Pitts, right? I mean, a lot of talk on social media, and I'm sure you've had the conversations as well. Is this guy a top 5 tight end? Are you drafting him as a top 5? My initial thoughts, no, I just don't do that. Kelsey, I'm fine with. Waller, I'm fine with. Kittle, I have no problem with these guys that are going as top 5 tight ends. Kelsey would be the one guy. Kelsey or Waller, I think, are the two guys maybe that I would grab. But now we're just going to really start to see this team. So Pitts, again, NFFC since May 1st, tight end 4. He's got a wide range of outcomes here. Pfeifer, 62 is the ADP. Min pick 25 and max 88. How many shares do you think you'll have of Kyle Pitts? Like, best ball is different. You can take shots all you want.
Yeah.
But your redraft, your money leagues, what do you think? How many shares do you think you'll have of Kyle Pitts? And do you think it's fair? Top 5.
I mean, I started like a couple weeks ago. I started a Dynasty startup tight end premium draft. And this was like when the Julio rumors just kind of started. And I took Pitts in the second round. And I thought it was a reach a little bit. And now I'm kind of thrilled about it. Obviously, tight end premium is different. But in your traditional redraft, I mean, I'm probably keeping him at tight end 6 because I might move him over Andrews, but like I'm huge on Hockenson this year, and I think the consensus top 3 is obviously Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. My philosophy is similar to yours. If I'm not getting Kelsey, like we did, like Kelsey's obviously a first round pick, and then we did a mock draft episode on last Thursday, and the way I had the 3rd overall pick, took Zeke in the first, and it swung back around, and a lot of the receivers and running backs I liked went off the board. So in the 3rd round, I just took Darren Waller, and it's like, okay, 3rd round Darren Waller is great value, I think. But like, if I'm not getting one of those tight ends, I'm probably just going to wait for somebody later or take like Irv Smith in the back end. It's just because Kyle Pitts is probably going to be really good. I just think like if I'm drafting him, like he's probably going to go ahead of Hockenson and Andrews now. And I don't think there's that much of a gap, and I still have Hockenson over him. And I know there's the rookie tight ends are normally bad. I will say Kyle Pitts is different. Kyle Pitts is probably going to play a lot of receiver for this team, especially with Julio gone. They can just play Kyle Pitts out wide and keep Hayden Hurst playing the traditional tight end role, which I think they'll do a lot. But and Arthur Smith, former tight ends coach, can say what you want. Didn't get the most out of Jonnu Smith like we would have hoped to see, but like Kyle Pitts is going to be good in this offense. I just where he's going to go in drafts, you're passing up on a lot of really good players. Because he's probably going to be like a late 3rd, 4th round pick at the end of the summer, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm with you on Hockenson too. My reason is, and I tweeted it last month, and I know I'm going to get flack. Like somebody will just be like, "Oh, because things have changed." Like, good on everybody. Everybody who drafted early and assumed that Julio was going to go, and they took him as tight end 6 or 7, roughly, and outside the top 60 picks. It's like, okay, all right, that's solid. I like that value. You were ahead of the curve, and that's fantastic. I have to change my tune a little bit. That I think he does have top 5 upside at the position, but the price that we're going to have to pay now is just he has to be perfect, and we've yet to see it. I agree. He's going to be a stud in the NFL. He's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
The guy is, there's no question about the skill set. He's a mismatch all over the field. There's absolutely no question about that. But here we are with, let's just see. So if he's going to go around pick 60 or so, 62 is the average. So you're in the range of Kenny Golladay, I'm not totally in on. Sorry, Tino. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams, Tyler Lockett, Mike Davis, Brendan Ayuk, T. Higgins, Mark Andrews, Chase Edmond, TJ Hawkinson. So I don't know. Like that range it's not fantastic, but there's some stud wide receivers at the back of that, like DJ Chark is a guy that I like. So I don't know. I just think you're really that just the price tag. You really just he has to be perfect for you. It's going to be hard to return value, but Matt Ryan is going to chuck it. He's probably going to be top 3 again. in passing attempts. This is just what happens. We'll be talking about Atlanta stacks because the defense is brutal. Heck, week one, what do they got? The Eagles. I mean, that could potentially be a shootout with neither team stopping each other inside a dome. It could be fast track, a lot of offense. So he's going to be fun. I'll play him in DFS. I'll hope to have a share of him here and there, but I don't know how many, honestly, I'll have from
He
a
reminds me of
redraft
like
standpoint.
you're a huge baseball guy, Meaney. So like he reminds me of like when you're in your draft for baseball and there's a prospect that has been called up yet, but you know it's coming and
Oh, yeah.
somebody reaches for him.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts, there's going to be somebody in every draft that
Always.
just wants Kyle Pitts in the team and they're going to take them. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not a bad pick necessarily. I just, with how, brutal tight end can be and the fact that he's going around Mark Andrews, who we've seen do it, 3
Multiple
years in a
times.
row now, 2
Yeah.
years in a row now. Like Hawkinson hasn't done it yet, but like he is going to get targets as well. I just think at the end of the day, you're passing up on a lot of really good players, at wide receiver and at running back. So I
You
I don't hate Kyle Pitts at tight end 5 or 6, but he's not like this doesn't move the needle for me necessarily because I would like when I was ranking and projecting Kyle Pitts for the season, it was with the idea that Julio Jones wouldn't be there anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Don't get us wrong, guys. We're not crapping all over Kyle Pitts here. The guy is going to be a complete stud, but I'm not totally sure if he's a great redraft target for where he's going. And like I said, I think from a month from now, when I do these shows, and I'm saying, okay, from June 1st to middle of July, holy crap, this guy's ADP is like 45 now or 46, right? I just think it's going to continue. He's going to get steam. So before we move on from all of this. Ryan Tannehill, we mentioned the passing yards, the attempts from him last season, the 18th most, 481. QB7 last year, though, 300. We had 3,800 yards, a touchdown to interception ratio, 33-7. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, just, of course, behind your guy, Josh Allen. In or out on Ryan Tannehill, and how fun will it be to stack this offense and to stack him with the 2 studs in best ball formats?
Yeah, I don't know how you're out. I mean, last year he was third in the NFL in fantasy points per drop back among quarterbacks. Um, the year before that he was second. Like Lamar Jackson has been pretty much the only player to average more points per drop back than Tannehill since he's been, had his career kind of, um, you know, brought back to life since
Yeah.
joining Tennessee. Like he's been that efficient and that good. And like I made the mistake a couple years ago. I was like, okay, he's not going to be this efficient again, and then he was. And well, I'm not going to go into this year with Julio Jones added to the mix and say he's going to be. It's like so at some point you think he is, but he runs for touchdowns despite playing with Derrick Henry, because they run those plays where like everybody thinks Derrick Henry's getting the ball from a yard out, and and Tannehill literally walks in the end
Yeah,
zone.
he walks in. Yeah.
And then obviously, like there is a slight chance they open up the offense with Julio Jones there, and that could be massive for Tannehill because we've seen him, with 22, 25 passing attempt games. He's pretty much like the AFC's Russell Wilson, right? Like limited passing attempts, but incredibly efficient. And I just don't see how, like, he's going to go probably in that QB 9 to 10 range. Like, he's obviously going ahead of Matt Ryan now if he wasn't already, but like, he's probably going to flirt with like Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, maybe Jalen Hurts. Like, he's going to be in that range, and I think that's perfectly viable. The thing I've talked about a lot already this year is we always talk about how deep quarterback is. It's like, okay, you miss out on whoever, you can just wait and get Matt Ryan late or Matthew Stafford late or whoever late.
Mm-hmm.
The problem this year is the top 6 or 7 guys all give you such an advantage with not only their arm, but their legs. Like all these guys are great, obviously, but like Kyler can run for 1,000 yards. Jalen Hurts can run for 1,000 yards. Lamar can run for 1,000 yards. Josh Allen can run for 10 touchdowns. Mahomes is going to run obviously a little bit. So like Tannehill's going to score a couple of rushing touchdowns, but he's not going to be the runner that those guys are. So it just kind of bumps those guys down like Tom Brady and Tannehill and Stafford. But yeah, I don't even think I remember where I moved. I think I moved him up to QB 9. So I have him one spot below. Like he's right there with Tom Brady for me.
Yeah, me too. I almost feel like, yeah, he's right there with Tom Brady too. I got him at 10. I liked him a lot anyways before this. He was right around 14 for me. I just feel like he gets undervalued, overlooked a little bit. And we had the exact conversation on Friday's show with Joe Pisapia. We talked about value at the quarterback position. He basically said the exact same thing you did after the top
It's
6. Like
crazy.
there's
It's,
just,
it's honestly crazy because like I would do it every year, right? Oh, I didn't get
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes or whoever. I'll just get
Hmm.
Matthew Stafford in the 13th round. Back in the day, Tony Romo, I would draft him
Oh
every
yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
it's just like Now you can still do that with a lot of these players, but you're kind of hurting yourself at sometimes too. Like, and I didn't even mention Dak, who like just that offense alone, like it's more loaded than ever, but it's also more loaded at the top, 5 or 6 than ever, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. There's a bit of a gap there, and the drop off is tremendous because of what they offer on the ground, right? The rushing. So Tannehill, I mean, only 266 rushing yards last year, as behind Teddy Bridgewater, behind Carson Wentz, right? Behind Jalen Hurts, who played 4.5 games or 5 games. So it's not totally going to be there for him, that safe floor, but he does have two alphas. We can move off this conversation. I don't think there's really anything to add. I mean, Derrick Henry's still a stud. Jake Seeley was on here last week and said he had no issues with taking him number one overall at the running back position. I'm not there, but
Someone did it. I did an industry magazine mock draft
number
the other
one.
night. He
Yeah,
went first overall. I don't have a problem with it, really.
I told him I don't have a problem with it either. I mean, how could you hate
Especially
it?
in a
It's
half
just
PPR. Like if it's a
that's
full
the thing.
PPR, it's hard to not take McCaffrey. But
Yeah,
like
if it's a
Derrick
half, it's
Henry has
fine.
been pretty much the most unstoppable player in the league for the last 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, he can't be stopped. He's too
Unreal.
good. And we've seen a slight increase in catches and targets. Slight. I'm not saying overboard here, but there has been a slight. But now with
Can
Julio
you
there,
imagine
it's
if he
not going
gets
to
to
happen.
like 30 catches?
Well, this is what
Just
Jake and I
30.
talked about. Could you imagine if he had 30 catches? Why don't they just give him a couple screens or give him the ball open in space? You can't tackle him. You
Yeah,
can't.
I've said this for 2 years now. It's kind of baffles my mind. It's probably the most unstoppable play in the NFL. If you just throw him a screen and let him run downhill,
Oh my
he's getting
goodness.
10 yards at least.
Yeah.
Like,
Wasn't it a couple of years ago, week 1 or something like that? He had like a 70-yard catch
yeah,
that
he
he
had a
brought to the
bunch of
house.
he had a couple like 50 plus screen touchdowns or plays in a row, and then just
Yeah.
disappeared.
It's like, okay, here we go.
Because like if he catches 30 balls,
Yeah.
you don't need him to catch 56. Like,
No.
just give him 30.
And it's crazy to say that he may be more efficient because he just had 2,000 yards on the ground, but he's not going to see all these boxes that are going to be super stacked. Like last time, this time last week, we're talking about Reynolds, right, as the 2, and maybe still seeing
Ferkser in
loaded
the slot,
boxes.
who, by the way, condolences to Derek Brown. He had Ferkser as like his tight end 6 for a long time.
He's
and
going to
now
have to adjust.
Gonna have to adjust.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to adjust. Anything else to add from all of this before we talk some rookie backs?
Russell Gage is a viable late round pick
Yeah,
now
good call.
in deeper leagues, Zacchaeus. But yeah, I mean, just Ridley to the moon if he wasn't already. And low key, this might give Mike Davis a little bit more reception totals, which we haven't talked about, but like
That's right.
he could like, I think he's perfectly fine where he's going, but I think he might get a little bit bump in receptions if Gage and Zacchaeus don't really pan out.
Would you take Julio over these pit wideouts? Because that's kind of the range. I'm, not so much Juju, but I've seen Claypool, inside the top 20. Maybe that's a little bit of a reach, but I've seen him right around 19.
I'm
Deontay around 18.
I'm team Deontay for them. So like I have Deontay at 19. Juju came in at 17 for me, which I hate because, like I said, he's one of my favorite players literally ever. It's just hard to put him over CeeDee Lamb and Amari and Allen Robinson and Metcalf and Jefferson and McLaurin, just because those guys are all pretty much the ones on their teams.
Let's play a little quick, fast pace. This guy or this guy, Julio or Chris Godwin?
I've Godwin literally one spot behind Julio, so I'd still go Julio.
Julio
Tampa Bay's offense scares me. Not that they're going to be bad, just I don't know who the hell is going to get the ball every week.
I know you can't. Yeah, you have no idea.
Clue. Just draft Brady, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Julio or Robert Woods?
You're good at this. Robert Woods is one spot ahead of Julio, so they are literally 16, 17, and 18 for
Julio or DJ Moore?
I'm really high on DJ Moore this year, so I have DJ Moore at 14. I just think he's going to play in the slot more. He was only in the slot like 30% of the time last year.
They didn't use him properly last year.
Right. They used him how the Jets used Robbie Anderson, which like DJ Moore can win. He can be that player. It's just Teddy Bridgewater was one of the worst deep ball passers in the NFL last year. And like, if he can play in the slot like 50 to 60% of the time with his ability after the catch, and we know Sam Darnold has targeted the slot a ton throughout his career. And Terrace Marshall being there, I think can push DJ Moore to the slot more. I just think if he can have an outlier touchdown season, he has top 10 upside. So I do prefer DJ Moore.
I'm excited for Sam Darnold. This guy gets crapped on a lot, right? He gets away from the Jets and Madam Gase. He's got some weapons here,
I'm not
right?
I'm not out on Sam Darnold.
No, me neither. I think he could. I mean, he doesn't have to have too much to have a breakout season, a breakout campaign, and he's got some weapons around him, right? Some guys who could. I mean, he's obviously familiar with Robbie Anderson. He's got DJ Moore there, Terrace Marshall, and obviously CMC who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So he's got guys who can make things happen after the catch. I mean, and a nice young coach in year two. Brady in year two as the OC. So
Yeah, this will be his
be
only year
interesting
with Joe Brady because Brady's going to be head coach in 2022.
with what Cincy.
I
Imagine.
don't know who, but he needs to be a head coach because he is
Yeah,
awesome.
he's going to be a head coach. There's no question. Imagine if
I
we
like
went
that
to
was
the
my
Bengals
biggest miss
though, and we
last
went
year.
with Burrow and
Yeah, that would
Jamar.
be
That'd be all
sick.
right.
My biggest miss last year, people were like, "Should I draft Robbie Anderson late?" I was like, "Why would you draft Robbie Anderson?" And
I
Joe
know.
Brady changed Robbie Anderson's game, and he was awesome. Like I had DJ Moore in my most important league, so it was tilting to see him get all the catches where DJ Moore was just running a lot of times wide open. But hopefully that changes with it's more consistent with DJ Moore and Robbie's usage. But yeah, that's what Joe Brady does, man. That's why I wanted Kyle Pitts to go here because he
Mm.
just puts his players in position to make plays, and that's what he's going to do with DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall and Robbie Anderson once again. And oh, by the way, they didn't even have McCaffrey for all of last year.
No. Yeah, good on Sam Darnold. He's got to be excited. So let's switch gears here and talk some rookie backs, and we'll get you out of here. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's not the same sort of feel. Like Jonathan Taylor here going RB6, Cam Akers, a stud. Antonio Gibson stud, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like we were just spoiled last year, I think, with some of these backs. So Najee Harris, he goes to Pitt. Great landing spot. It's been said numerous times on this show, other shows, your show, I'm sure, of Pittsburgh running backs. We've seen Lev Bell. We saw D'Angelo Williams there one year, finishes a top 5 running back in the system, and James Conner as well. A lot of questions about the offensive line. I think they did a good job of addressing that for the most part throughout the draft. And so for Harris, RB12, NFFC again since May 1st, ADP of 15. Just after, I'll just read them off. You know the top few. But Taylor at 6, Zeke at 7, Chubb at 8, Cam Akers 9, Eckler 10, Aaron Jones 11, Najee Harris 12, Mixon 13, Gibson, Swift, Dobbins, and CEH. Are you fine with where Harris is going?
Yeah, I mean, I have him at RB14, but that could change with like I would rather have him over Aaron Jones
Me
if we
too.
knew Rodgers wasn't playing. I don't care at all about the offensive line in Pittsburgh because he's getting 20 touches at minimum a game. Like if they're giving veteran D'Angelo Williams when he was there 20 plus touches, they're giving a first round pick Najee Harris work, and he has legitimate catch radius as a receiver out of the backfield, so that's going to be fun. Um, I think they're going to want to try to establish a run. Whether they can or not is up in the air. But even if they can't, he's not coming off the field for Benny Snell or Anthony McFarland. So, like, I don't have him as high as a lot of others seem to. I'm kind of like in the middle. I'm not super high on him. I'm not low on him. I'm just kind of like I plugged him in at RB14 the second he was drafted and he hasn't moved. So
Mm.
like if you want to take Aaron Jones or Clyde over him, I get it. But yeah, I think he's going to be probably by the end of the summer like a consensus second round pick, which is viable, but like I think he's going to be like I said, I don't care about the offensive line. He's going to get 20 plus touches a game. He's a great player. Probably going to catch 50 plus passes. And that's just, there's not, we talk about the drop off. I mean, you don't have really question marks with, the elite guys. Maybe you have some question marks about Aaron Jones, but then it's like after Najee and maybe Clyde, I have question marks about a lot of these guys. Dobbins, I'm a huge Gus Edwards guy. Like, I don't know if Dobbins is going to be the one. He might be the 1A, but he's not going to be the clear cut one. DeAndre Swift, there's been tons of question marks that were surrounding him, Josh Jacobs. And then you have like the guys in multiple backfields like Kareem Hunt and Travis Etienne and Javante Williams and Raheem Mostert, Melvin Gordon, Chase Edmonds. So it's like it's hard to just not like him at RB14 just because he's going to get the ball. And it's just so I love to use advanced stats as much as anybody, but it's just kind of that simple. Like he's going to get the ball.
Yeah, I mean, 300 touches with the extra game. There's no question 300 touches. I got him for 50 grabs as well. I have him at 11, just ahead of Aaron Jones, but I'm fine either way. You're right. If Rodgers
I'm
goes away,
close. I'm
then
close
then
to
Aaron
moving him
Jones.
regardless too.
Yeah, just over that spot. Even still, we're splitting hairs. Like
Yeah.
it's a great landing spot. I'd rather have him over Joe Mixon. I do like Antonio Gibson. I'm sure he's going to be more involved for through the air and catching a few balls. But I still like Harris is just he's a complete back that I think will definitely touch the ball 300 times as a rookie. You're right. All questions with everyone. I mean, even Miles Sanders questions. A ton of these guys. There's a lot of questions after them. They're not true bell cow backs. There's some committees in the NFL going around. And as we move over to Jacksonville, this is probably one of the committees. I know Urban Meyer said after that he just ETN's just going to be a 3-down back, and I called bullshit initially. Like, come on, man, you're not drafting this guy in the first round just to be on the field 3rd down. But RB22. ADP 43, min 20, max 66. James Robinson right after him, RB 23, ADP 51, min 21, and max 83. I think it's just a stay away for me. I don't think I'm going to have too many shares of Travis Etienne. I don't know if it's a situation I'm going to be able to trust. James Robinson was pretty darn good. I remember coming on your show last year and we were gushing over James Robinson and how productive he was inside this offense.
Yeah. Like Etienne's a hyped player too. So it's like, if he falls, in PPR leagues, I have no problem taking him because there's a situation where he could have a Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift second half rookie year, where both those guys in the second half of the rookie years were the guys, and they were RB1s clearly. Etienne has that in his range of outcomes. Obviously, playing alongside Trevor Lawrence, Meyer that I think's he wants to play with speed and tempo and pace. That fits Etienne more than it fits James Robinson, who I feel just terrible for because the guy had like the best UDFA running back season ever. And they were just like, all right, thanks, man. You're good now. Like Robinson, the start of the season is getting work. Like I've seen people compare this to like a Kamara Latavius workload, and I could see that very, very easily. But I just worry that with Urban Meyer there, like if he's going to want to play with this tempo, that's going to fit Etienne more.
It
And
is.
we know Robinson, like the thing with Robinson last year was he was great and he was incredible, but like they moved on from Fournette in the offseason, and then Raquel Armstead and Ozigbo were both out. I mean, one of them had COVID, the other one had an injury. Like they had no backup running back. They had to bring in Chris Thompson as their backup, and then he was hurt. Like they legitimately didn't have a backup running back last year. Now they have ETN. Now they have Carlos Hyde. Say what you want about Carlos Hyde, but he's a body.
Yep.
So I just think that Robinson, like he's probably like the least sexy pick in fantasy right now. But yeah, I would rather have like Mike Davis and Gaskin, guys that I know have a better chance to at least start the season getting 20 touches than ETN. But ETN could be like a second half, week 12 on like league winning type player, especially in PPR leagues. But yeah, like he's not going late enough for me to really want to like there's so many I don't know how many drafts I've done in best ball or whatever already this year where it's like, oh, ETN's on the board and look at the receiver. And it's like, okay, Robert Woods is there and the Bengals receivers are there. And it's just like, the Steelers receivers, and like I'd just rather have all those players.
I know it's that's why I'm RB, man. I'm an RB guy early.
I'm starting to feel that way too because a lot of these best balls I'll take Zeke because like Zeke's I don't know why people are not drafting Zeke like top 5, but I have him 3. So
I have him
I'll
3
take
too.
Zeke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take Zeke, and then I'm like, okay, I can take Gibson with my next pick or whoever's there, Chubb or not Chubb, but like Aaron Jones or Clyde. But then I go receiver, and I'm like, okay, I probably should have went running back because I end up going running back and then 3 straight receivers or 4 straight receivers because the running backs just fall off so quickly.
Yeah, they do. And I felt like this last year. Do you remember? Like DK Metcalf was a 5th round pick, Keenan Allen 5th round pick, Ridley 5th, 6th round pick, like 7 in some spots, just to get those backs because I've tried different ways, and everybody has multiple drafts, but every time I start my draft, and it is tempting to have a Diggs and a Kelsey or like just 2 stud wide receivers. But then I just hate it. I hate my team so much because I'm staring at all these running backs and there's so many question marks. It's like, geez, I'm taking all these flyers and certain guys. I just know that I'm going to have to land somebody on the waiver wire like a Robinson or anybody who's going to be able to just kind of carry the load at the running back position. But even still looking now with those guys who have moved up this season, like Diggs moves up. He wasn't getting any respect last season at all in drafts. Calvin Ridley moves up. AJ Brown, we're talking about moving up. DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, all these guys have moved up inside the top 10. Outside the top 20, we're talking about how we like DJ Moore. Jamar Chase is in there, Brendan Ayuk, Claypool, your boy Juju Smith-Schuster, DJ Chark. Like there are so many, even outside the top 35, there are so many stud wide receivers that you can grab as opposed to grabbing Marvin Jones, who turned it around, by the way, had himself a solid finish to the season. Didn't he finish as a top 20 wide receiver?
Yeah, you know why?
Because you dropped him?
Well, no, because I was gonna be a smart ass and just say because he's really good at football, which he is, but obviously Galladay being out help. I was just gonna hype up Marv some
more. Tino, let's bring you in. You got the mic. What do you think of this entire situation where we're talking about here with Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, these rookie running backs? It's not the same sort of feel this year as last year.
So yeah, I love Najee. I'm with you guys. I'm a little higher than I think Adam is on it, but to be honest, all his points make a lot of sense to me. I think one way or another, the Steelers are going to have to try to run the football. I don't know how much success they're going to have, especially behind that offensive line. But point being, they drafted him in the first round. The kid showed all throughout his college career that he can be a 3-down back, and the Steelers desperately need it. Whether they want to realize it or not, Big Ben can't move. He can't move anymore. So they got to help him. They got to give him some time. The only way they're going to do that is, by establishing the run or trying to establish the run. Travis Etienne, I don't know. I'm bullish on him. I don't know what to think about Etienne yet, to be honest. I know it's still early. I'm waiting to get a little pulse because I don't know where they view James Robinson. I just don't. I mean, he had such a good year last year. I buy the whole, maybe he'll play some wide receiver stuff and third downs, and that's fine. But I think Etienne could be a 3-down back too. I'm not sold that it's going to be right away. And that's why I kind of don't want to touch any rookie running back right now, at least early on, other than Najee Harris.
I think Pfeifer said it perfectly that he could be, I don't always go as far as a league winner, but maybe towards the end of the season, right? When we saw some of these running backs kind of, I know CEH started off so strong and he tapered off when they
he's going to be an ideal, right before your league's trade deadline, try to trade for him if he's not
buy low.
Popping off.
I mean, how many times this? I think we both were doing trade targets and stuff at FTN Fantasy. And every single week I had Jonathan Taylor or Cam Akers in there every week. And it's like, man, at some point, one of these guys are going to have to pop off or I just may not be asked to write anymore because I just buy low on these guys. They're going to be league winners. And they were, right? Cam Akers a little bit late. You maybe won some consolation brackets. I know I won a couple consolation brackets with him as my running back, but Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery, I know it's not the same sort of deal, but both of these guys turned it off in the second half of the season. So that could be good point. He could be, maybe you pass on him at the point where he is getting taken as a top 40 pick. And maybe it may take some time, to Tino's point as well, with James Robinson hanging around, and then he's a league winner for you, maybe a buy low candidate. But I think he does have 3-down upside. Certainly familiar with Trevor Lawrence, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield and he is explosive. I was super excited about him last year. I thought he, coming out of the draft, I was just gushing all over these backs, and then I was like, okay, we'll wait one more year for ETN. So I do like him overall as a running back. We'll finish up here with the other two rookie backs that I think have some appeal anyways from a redraft standpoint. Michael Carter, RB 34, ADP 94, and then Trey Sermon, RB 36, ADP 98. In on any of these guys? Do you see yourself having any shares of Carter or Sermon?
My problem is that Sermon is being drafted around Mostert. And right now, Mostert's a starter. And I know he's had trouble staying healthy, but I talked about this with Debro because Debro's a huge Sermon guy. But if they're being drafted in the same spot, I would rather take Mostert. And a lot of people would rather take Sermon. I get it. He fits the zone scheme really well for San Francisco. And Jeff Wilson's already banged up. So it's they're both probably going to be flex options to start, I would think. But Mostert's been nothing short of fantastic when he's been healthy. It's just a problem that he's been very rarely healthy since joining the team. But the thing about this team is they don't care where you're drafted or when you're drafted. Mostert and Jeff Wilson were both undrafted free agents, and they played huge roles in this team. They traded up for Sermon in the 4th round. So it's that's telling to me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of upside with Sermon in this offense because it's just outside of Baltimore. It's the most unstoppable running attack in the NFL. Right. So it's obviously appealing.
Yeah, and I mean, Elijah Mitchell may get some touches. Heck, Wayne Gallman, I don't know. He may get some freaking touches. It's Shanahan. You can't trust him. He's an offensive stud, and the schemes and what they want to do and run the football and run some play action. I think the offense will score some points. I gotta lean Sermon between the two because I think there's a higher ceiling inside this
Yeah, it's
offense
fair.
and still with the Jets. But Michael Carter may have a path to more touches overall. I think that's fair to say. And after that, I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is the next rookie back at RB 48, 104, and I don't think you really want a piece of what's going on with the Eagles run game because Hurts is going to call his own number, and you just new offense. I don't know. He's probably just going to be a guy that catches a few balls. I
I
saw
hate it
you
too.
tweet it out
I
when
love Gainwell too. I hated it.
yeah, I saw you tweet that about Miles Sanders right roughly when the pick happened. Says an Eagles guy, I know this, man. Miles Sanders struggled significantly last season in the passing game.
Yeah. And it was weird because coming out of Penn State, he was one of those running backs that wasn't just like using the passing game off screens and dump offs. He was running legitimate routes. And that's what
Yeah.
Kenneth Gainwell did last year in college. He was beating corners like 15 yards down the field, which is why I thought he was way better than a 6th-round talent. Like, I know the running back class as a whole wasn't great, but I was pretty surprised to see him go that late. If Kenneth Gainwell can get the Boston Scott role, he'll be like somewhat relevant. But yeah, this was bad for him for Dynasty and everything. I loved, he was my RB4 in this class. Like, I liked him over Michael Carter. Like, it was Javonte, Etienne, Harris, and then it was Gainwell for me. But obviously, this is not ideal. And yeah, like I love the player.
Yeah, I like him too. I like the player as well. Not the best landing spot. All right, we'll get you out of here on this. Dynasty targets. You got one for us? You got somebody who you think is a great buy low? For me, I think Jerry Jeudy. I think he's a great buy low candidate as a target guy. And I think also Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and we've talked about him just briefly here, a little bit here and there. Just, I think he's in for a breakout campaign, man. I look at last season at the start of the season, they bring in Lev Bell. I think he's a guy that could be had in Dynasty, especially, some people, they spent that high pick on him, whether it was like maybe a Dynasty startup last year, just a rookie only draft last year, and they took him at pick 101, and they're just sitting there, oh man, I wish I took Taylor or Akers. Like, I would hold him, and I would maybe check in on the owner. I think both can be had, Jerry Jeudy and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Is there one off the top of your head for you?
Yeah, I'll give you two.
Nice.
I'll give you three. I'll give you three receivers real quick.
Let's
DJ
go.
Chark.
Oh yeah.
He had like some of the worst luck on deep passes last year. Minshew was terrible. Obvious quarterback upgrade there. Darnell Mooney, I like. Debro's been kind of talking him up, and I'm starting to look at some of the numbers. He had 23 deep targets last year and only caught 4 of them. That was clearly quarterback based because he was getting open at will. Justin Fields was an incredibly accurate quarterback, and I am just incredibly high on Justin Fields. And there's really no competition for targets for Darnell Mooney outside of Allen Robinson, like at all. Like Anthony Miller is not a thing. They're trying to trade him still. So Darnell Mooney and Gabriel Davis. So people are worried about Emmanuel Sanders being there. Look, Buffalo ran 4 wide more than any team in the NFL last year other than the Cardinals. And they would have ran 4 wide more than the Cardinals if John Brown didn't get hurt. Because before John Brown got hurt, their 4 wide set was Davis, Brown, Beasley, and Diggs. When he got hurt, they didn't have anybody. Like, they weren't going to play Andre Roberts a ton of snaps at receiver. Isaiah McKenzie would get his a little bit, but like, if they're healthy, they're going to play 4 wide, and Davis is going to be in the field. Also, I think Davis plays over Sanders in 3 wide sets anyway. And oh, by the way, Sanders is on a 1-year deal. Beasley's a free agent next year. So Davis was clearly good for them last year as their deep target, averaging over 17 yards per catch, scoring touchdowns. If people were worried about him, I would definitely try to trade for Gabriel Davis. I'm not a homer, though. Promise.
No, I wanted to ask you the Bills before you got out of here. If you didn't bring them up, I was going to mention the Bills and just like some optimism for them. I mean, geez, you got to be on cloud 9 with just the way that this team is played.
I was talking to my brother yesterday because we're born in upstate New York, so my brother's a Bills fan too. And we're going through the Bills schedule, and it's like for the first time in, well, I guess since last year, but like heading into the season, we didn't expect that. So it's like we can comfortably say, like, if you're playing the Buffalo Bills, you're going to have to score with them. And it's just weird. It's just weird. But I think their defense is going to be better too with Star Lotulelei back to stop the run. They added a bunch of pieces in the pass rush via the draft. And yeah, I mean, with Brian Daboll back, like, you're not slowing this offense down. So unless Josh Allen just falls completely back down to earth, which I don't expect to happen,
I don't see
they should win, 12, 13 games and be right in that range where they were last year, where they could be a game away from Super Bowl. So it's weird to have this optimism, but they are good. They're a good team.
It's warranted, dude. Yeah. I was looking at Gabriel Davis too. I mean, you can check out ftndaily.com. You can see some of the free tools that we have, like air yards and A dot. He's got 15.24. So out of guys who had, a minimum of 25 targets. I mean, we could go to 30 targets. I mean, he had 62. We could go to 50 and he'd be top 10. We can go to 30 and we'd get rid of like John Hightower, just some average dudes, Deshaun Jackson in there.
And the reason I love
Johnson.
trading for Debro mentioned him when we did the trade for in Dynasty podcast. Like the Bills core and everything is like locked. Like Josh Allen's about to get a huge deal and he's going to be there for good. And then like Brandon Beane, their GM, who I think is like the best GM in the league outside of like maybe two guys. He's extended. McDermott's extended. Brian Daboll is back. So it's like everything's kind of in place for this offense. And if he's the wide receiver 2 unquestioned next year, like you're not going to be able to get him this time next year if Beasley's gone and Sanders is who I expect to be gone as well. So go try to get him now.
Yeah, it's a good call. He'd be cheap too. And even in dynasty startups, and I think he's a guy that you can take near the end of your draft and you'd probably be pretty happy with that. I've loved to see the success of Josh Allen. I was with a massive Bills fan through that draft, and he was unsure. And I said, I think he's going to be a player, man, because you can't teach some of the stuff that he has, like the body type, the build, the strong arm, of course. And we've seen the completion percentage from 52 to 58, and then last year to 69. I think he still has room to grow, which is actually scary. And one thing I always say, man, is that you learn how to lose before you learn how to win. And I think the game against the Texans in the playoffs in the second half, he went through something. Yeah. I thought he battled against the Colts and managed to get through that as well. And I think, it's another step forward that he can take. I mean, the playoffs, he's going to have a lot of postseason games over the course of his career. So I think he's just going to continue to build, and the smarts will come as a quarterback as well. So lots to be excited about for sure. Adam Pfeifer, appreciate you jumping on here, man. You want to plug some stuff? I know you and Debro have been going hard with Fade the Chalk. You guys pumping out, I think it feels like an episode every day or every other day.
Yeah, it's right around 4 or 5 per week. But yeah, you're going to be making an appearance tomorrow, so that'll be fun. Debro's at FSGA for Monday and Tuesday. So I'm going to be recording twice tomorrow, one with you breaking down the NFC South. That'll be our last division preview. And then Chris Allen from 4 for 4 is going to be joining me to talk about some early bus candidates. And then, yeah, I mean, we're doing like 4 or 5 a week. We started our mock drafts, which we'll do probably once a week. We get somebody from the industry or FTN to come on and draft with us, record it while we're drafting, and get, the remaining spots filled via Twitter, which is fun to get, interact with everybody.
That's cool.
And yeah, like you said, we've just been having fun with it, and it's been we've been getting a lot of compliments about it, which is always nice and makes you want to keep doing it. So yeah, check it out. Fade the Chalk, subscribe on Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. We're still giving away a Calvin Ridley jersey, which people probably want even more so now. So if you subscribe, if you leave a rating and a review on iTunes, you will automatically be entered to win that. So yeah, good stuff. And I'm excited to chat with you tomorrow once again.
Yes, buddy. That is awesome. Yeah, subscribe, guys. Honestly, FTN's not even a year old here. This time last year, we were just kind of scrambling to put together FTN. And now we really have a lot of content over at ftnfantasy.com. Some season-long content. Rankings launched today. I believe your rankings can be found over there at ftnfantasy.com as well. So it's a free pod. Check it out. The guys are absolutely crushing it and getting you set for the NFL season. Always a pleasure. Adam Pfeifer. We will chat tomorrow. Pfeifer24 on the Twitter machine. A shout out to Tino as well for making this show flow as smooth as possible. I'm Chris Meaney. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.